Hey everybody, John Han with the Pulsing Cinema, and today's movie is kind of a cheat because it's a TV movie from 1989, LA Takedown, written and directed by Michael Mann. And LA Takedown is basically an exact predecessor to Michael Mann's Heat. It was a pilot for a television series that was never made, so it was just shown as a TV movie in 1989. And it was just this LA Takedown was basically made from Michael Mann's original Heat screenplay, cut down because LA Takedown is like a 90-minute TV movie, and Heat is a 3-hour theatrical film. The plots of the two are identical. A group of criminals led by this Neil McCauley character pull a bunch of heists in Los Angeles, raising the attention of a police detective, Hannah, who begins to chase after this group of criminals, and there is this complication with a member of these criminals, which is kind of a defector, a real sleazy guy called Wayne Grow, who causes a lot of problems for the crew, the Neil McCauley's crew. And eventually at the end of the film, there is a confrontation during a bank robbery where Hannah and McCauley come into direct conflict. Same thing in LA Takedown as in Heat, but there's a lot of plot that was just cut down in the TV movie to fit in that time slot. And if you're a mega fan of Heat, it's really interesting to watch LA Takedown because it's really identical. I mean, it's amazing because a lot of the shot compositions, a lot of the wardrobe. It was just like LA Takedown is almost like a dress rehearsal for Heat. Even the way Neil McCauley dresses, and the only thing is it's like on a TV movie budget. So, it's like at the end of the film when the crew was doing that bank robbery, in LA Takedown, it's like, Hannah gets the drop that the bank robbery is going on, and it's like, it's so low budget that it's like it seems like the entire police department just empties out this little tiny room. Like everybody just leaves, and it, whereas in Heat it actually feels like this real, bustling actual police department. But, everybody just seems like they're dressed a little bit, lower, and it's just a little more of a TV movie budget. And there's that whole segment of Heat where they've got the black criminals in the clubs, played by Tone Loc. He's one of the main guys, and it seems like in LA Takedown they substitute the black gangs for Latino gangs, which I don't know, based on maybe more or less realistic. I don't know what's really going on in Los Angeles as far as crime, but that could be more of what's going on. In any case, it's really the story of Heat and LA Takedown are very interesting because I don't think a lot of people know that they're actually based on a real criminal. In the early 60s, there was this guy who was actually named Neil McCauley, who was a criminal. He had done time in Alcatraz, and he had moved to Chicago, and he was actually active in Chicago. He had a group of other criminals, and he was the head of this group, and they were doing crimes in Chicago. They were taking down scores. They were pulling heists in Chicago. And there was this police detective, Chuck Adams, who actually the character of Hannah is in Heat and LA Takedown is based on. And Hannah actually had a conflict, a direct confrontation with this guy, Neil McCauley. Apparently even went to a coffee shop with him and had a coffee. And actually, apparently the scene in LA Takedown and Heat where they meet is apparently based on a real life scene that actually these two characters had. And in real life, in the late 60s, this wasn't in Los Angeles, of course, this was in Chicago. Neil and Macaulay tried to rob an armored truck, and it was the police had it staked out, and they just they had him cornered, and the criminals shot their way out of that, and Neil Macaulay was shot. He was killed during that siege by police. So in the late 70s, Michael Mann was doing research for his film Thief, and Chuck Adamson was a technical advisor on Heat, and he told him this story. And around 1979, Michael Mann actually wrote the screenplay for Heat, which at that time it was actually called Heat. And he tried to make it throughout the 70s. While he was making The Keep, he actually, if you look at interviews, television and print interviews around the time of The Keep, he keeps saying he's working on the script Heat, his crime script, and that's going to be his next script. But he moved on, and he went into Miami Vice and Crime Story and some other stuff. And Chuck Adamson was a writer and producer and on Crime Story and Miami Vice. And also Chuck Adamson was actually he plays Ansel in Thief, so he's actually in Thief as well. So by the late 80s, Michael Mann got an opportunity and produced this Heat screenplay as basically a television movie. Very interesting. The film stars in the Neil Macaulay role, which was De Niro in Heat, and an interesting actor, Charles MacArthur, who's probably most well known as the boyfriend in the Madonna "Papa Don't Preach" video. He was also in William Friedkin's serial killer capital punishment film Rampage, and he basically gives a good kind of junior De Niro role here, because De Niro in Heat, he looks like an older man who could have been in prison for a number of years, and he has that ex-con type vibe. But Alex MacArthur was a young guy, so it's kind of like he doesn't quite fit the role yet. It's just a little bit ill-fitting, but he has that kind of Le Samurai, that wounded warrior type of, you don't rat on your friends, you gotta, if you see the heat come around the corner, you drop it all and go, that whole thing, that whole rap, it's all in LA Takedown. But he's good. And in the Hannah role, which is Pacino in Heat, you've got this actor, Scott Plank, who is a good actor. Unfortunately, he passed away. He died as the result of injuries from a car accident in the early 2000s. But he went on to do a few films. He was in Holes. I think that was his last movie, which was actually, I think, dedicated to him. So if you can track down LA Takedown, it's worth it. It's a good film. I think it was released on VHS in the UK. And then in other parts of Europe, I think it's been released on DVD. I don't think it's really ever had an official release in the United States, as far as I'm aware of. But it's a good film. It definitely has more of a Miami Vice type vibe, and it's and it even has like a musical break. Where they do it during Miami Vice, where they'd have a musical montage with some, pop songs over it. Where there's a pop song, there's a point where, Neil Hannah is going through the streets and, trying to track people down, and they've got a musical montage, and then that musical montage is repeated during the end credits. So there it is. If you're a fan of Michael Mann, if you're a fan of Heat, then you are obligated to track down LA Takedown, because it feels like a dress rehearsal for Heat, and it's very cool and interesting in its own way.